A consultant's website was still online. The articles loaded, the analytics looked normal, and the contact button worked. But for 6 days, the form stopped delivering inquiries. The business didn't look broken. It was quietly losing leads. I'm Ace. Good to have you here. Let me ask you something. What part of your business could fail that quietly? Maybe it's your website, your payment process, your email list, or an automation you haven't looked at since you set it up. Maybe it's less technical. Maybe the entire way you deliver a client promise lives in your memory. Everything works until one assumption changes. Then a productive business can become a troubleshooting project in a single afternoon. Here's the thing. Resilience does not mean preparing for every imaginable disaster. It does not mean buying 5 versions of every tool or building a complicated backup operation beside your actual business. It means knowing which links matter, which ones would be hardest to replace, and what you can do if one of them becomes unavailable. Today, we're going to use a simple digital resilience audit. We'll follow one income producing workflow, find the dependencies underneath it, score the weak links, and build small fallbacks that preserve momentum. Then I'll give you a 15-minute failure drill and a 30-day plan. No corporate manual, no disaster theater, just a practical way to stop being surprised by avoidable problems. Let's use an authority website as our running example. A visitor searches for a useful article, reads it, clicks a contact button, fills out a form, schedules a call, pays for a service, and receives the result. That sounds like one offer. Underneath is a chain of handoffs. Start at the beginning. Where does attention come from? Search, referrals, emails, social media, a marketplace, or people walking past a physical location. You don't need a perfect diagram. Write the sources down, then follow one person through the business. Now follow the handoff. The visitor reaches the website. The form captures the inquiry. Email delivers a notification. A calendar shows availability. A payment system confirms the transaction. Then your fulfillment process creates and delivers the result. Afterward, customer records and follow-up keep the relationship from disappearing. That chain is your first useful map. Not a beautiful diagram. A working list. Hosting. Domain access. Form delivery. Email. Scheduling. Payment. Files. Credentials. Prompts. Suppliers. People. Decisions. And some dependencies hide in places you don't usually call systems. A renewal notice going to an old inbox. One password known by one person. A browser bookmark that points to the only copy of a file. An undocumented prompt that turns rough research into a client-ready report. If the process exists only in your head, it may be fast today, but it is difficult to recover tomorrow. I've done this myself. Built a workflow that felt effortless because I was the only person who knew the sequence. Then I realized I hadn't built a system. I had built a memory test. That is a part most people miss. You're not only dependent on software, you're dependent on access, information, timing, and knowledge. A tool may be replaceable, while the data inside it is not. Or the tool may be cheap, but losing it at the wrong moment could interrupt revenue. Once the map is rough, give each dependency 2 scores. First, impact. If this failed today, how much damage would it cause? Second, replaceability. How difficult would it be to replace or work around? Use 1 through 5 for each, then multiply them. Here's a quick example. Your scheduling tool costs $20 a month. It feels minor, but if losing it means new clients vanish into an inbox you rarely check, the impact is 5. If configuring a replacement would take several days, replaceability is 4. 5 times 4 equals 20. That small tool now belongs near the top of your risk list. Don't confuse cheap with low risk. A more expensive design application might score lower if your source files are stored in a standard format, and, to alternatives. Meanwhile, a free email account could score extremely high if it controls your domain, payment alerts, customer communication, and recovery codes. Score consequences, not annoyance. Would customers be affected? Would money stop moving? Would important information become inaccessible? Would you lose days rebuilding something? Would trust take a hit? Those questions keep you from spending a weekend protecting a minor inconvenience while ignoring the link that can stop your core offer. In many small businesses, access to the domain rises quickly. So does access to customer records, financial records, communication channels, and the knowledge required to fulfill the offer. Traffic matters, but traffic and conversion are different risks. A search ranking drop may reduce demand. A missing customer list may remove your ability to reach people who already trusted you. Now comes the useful question. What is the smallest fallback that keeps the promise alive? Not the perfect replacement, not a second business, a bridge. And you might be thinking, isn't this just more work? Fair question. It is more work if you try to protect everything. It is surprisingly little work if you protect only the 2 or 3 links that can interrupt revenue, customer trust, access, or delivery. For important data, create an export and know where it lives. For customer contact, keep an alternate path that does not depend on the same dashboard. For payments, understand how to issue an invoice or use another approved method if the normal checkout fails. For fulfillment, write the manual version in plain language. Not a 50-page operations manual, just enough that you can follow it when you're tired, busy, and under pressure. A checklist, save file, a few screenshots, the location of the export, the sequence of the handoff, the name of the person or supplier to contact. If artificial intelligence is part of your workflow, save the prompts that genuinely matter. Save strong examples of finished output. Keep the input checklist and the standard you use when reviewing the result. If the main tool disappears, the fallback may be slower. That's acceptable. Its job is to preserve the promise while you repair the preferred system. Let's return to that authority website. Imagine the form provider stops delivering notifications. The website still looks fine. Visitors can still read the articles. Analytics still show traffic. But inquiries are disappearing into silence. A proportionate fallback could be a visible alternate email address, a basic temporary form you have already tested, and a weekly comparison between submissions and received messages. You don't need to rebuild the whole website. You need another way for a real person to reach you. Or take an AI-assisted service. The main tool becomes unavailable on the morning a client report is due. Without documentation, you start from zero. With a save prompt, an input checklist, a sample report, and a manual review sequence, you can still deliver. Maybe it takes longer. Maybe you communicate a revised timeline, but the expertise remains portable. This is why failure drill matters. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Pretend the form provider is gone. Don't cancel anything. Don't create a customer problem. Just ask 3 questions. Can a new visitor still reach you? Can you see the inquiry? Can you respond without opening the old dashboard? Then ask one more. Can you deliver the smallest acceptable version of the promise? Write down the first point where you hesitate. Maybe the backup exists, but nobody knows the password. Maybe the instructions depend on a setting you can no longer find. Maybe the export is available, but its format is useless without another application. A fallback that has never been tested is a theory. A fallback that has been tested is an asset. Fix the biggest gap, then stop. You're not trying to simulate every possible failure. test one link, learn something, and make the system slightly easier to recover. Here's a simple 30-day sequence. In week 1, choose one income-producing workflow and map the path from attention to delivery. List every tool, account, file, credential, person, and decision it depends on. Keep the map rough. A document with arrows and questions is enough. In week 2, score those dependencies. Impact from 1 to 5. Replaceability from 1 to 5. Multiply the numbers. Circle the 2 or 3 highest results. If everything is urgent, you haven't prioritized yet. In week 3, build the smallest useful fallback. Export the data. Confirm account recovery. Document the manual procedure. Save the prompt and the example. Add the alternate contact route. Identify a second supplier if that is genuinely where the risk sits. In week 4, run the drill. Test the fallback, note the friction, and improve only what failed. Then put a short check on your calendar every few months. Tools change. Passwords change. Integrations disappear. A backup that worked last year may quietly stop being useful. Let's connect the dots. Your business is not resilient because it uses fewer tools. It is resilient because you understand which tools matter, what they hold, how they connect, and what you can do when one becomes unavailable. So ask 3 questions about one important workflow. What does it depend on? Which dependency would hurt most and be hardest to replace? And what is the smallest fallback that keeps the business moving? This week, remove one single point of failure. Export one critical data set. Document one process. Test one alternate contact path. Or save one prompt your work genuinely depends on. Give it 5 minutes of real testing. That small action can turn an invisible weakness into a manageable system. If practical systems thinking is useful to you, subscribe to the show. I'll keep breaking down ways to build stronger digital assets, more independent businesses, and workflows that support your life instead of quietly controlling it. Send this episode to another builder or small business owner who may be relying on one fragile tool. Well, that's enough to think about for today. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. I'll catch you in the next one.